If you're listening to this, you're probably winding down, looking for a gentle escape into the past, and maybe searching for a story so detailed, so quietly uneventful, that it just might help you drift off to sleep. Tonight, we're traveling thousands of years into the past, to the banks of the Nile, to follow in the sandaled footsteps of a young scribe in ancient Egypt. A job that might sound simple, but as you'll discover, is not for the faint of heart, or the easily bored. You see, being a scribe in ancient Egypt was both a privilege and a test of patience, endurance, and above all, the ability to stay awake while copying the same story about grain rations for the 100th time. Scribes were the keepers of knowledge, the recorders of everything from royal decrees to shopping lists, and they were essential for the machinery of the ancient Egyptian state. But their daily lives? Well, let's just say there was a lot more sore backs and ink-stained fingers than glamour. So tonight, settle in, pull your blanket a little tighter, and get comfortable as we gently walk you through every quietly exhausting moment of a day in the life of an ancient Egyptian scribe. From the creak of the wooden door at dawn to the soft scratch of reed pens on papyrus, you'll find out why most of us, myself included, wouldn't last a single day in their dusty sandals. Let's begin, as the first rays of the Egyptian sun creep over the horizon. The night in Egypt is short, especially for someone with so many words to write. Before the sky is fully light, before the city's streets are anything more than a hint of pale sand, you are already being roused from your thin mat by the gentle, insistent hum of life outside. Chickens begin their sleepy clucking, donkeys bray from somewhere nearby, and the Nile flows on as it always has, steady, patient, unconcerned with your lack of sleep. You wake up in a small mud brick house. There are no clocks. You judge the hour by the faint golden light slipping through a reed mat hung over the doorway. Your bed is a simple wooden frame with a woven mat, comfortable by ancient standards, but nothing like what you're used to. Your father is already up, preparing for his own long day of labor. Perhaps your mother is stirring a small fire, heating flatbread for breakfast. While your younger siblings fight over a chipped clay bowl, the air smells faintly of smoke, old straw, and yesterday's fish. As a scribe, or, at least, a scribe in training, you have a slightly higher status than many in your neighborhood. But there are no luxuries here, not really. Your main advantage is that, instead of spending your days hauling stones or wading into muddy fields, you'll be spending them sitting cross-legged on the hard ground, bent over papyrus, writing and copying until your hand cramps. You eat quickly a piece of flatbread, maybe dipped in a little honey if you're lucky. You tie your plain linen kilt, rub the sleep from your eyes, and gather your meager tools. A wooden palette with 2 cakes of ink black and red, a few carefully trimmed reed pens, and your most precious possession, a roll of smooth, pale papyrus. Outside, the city is waking up too. You can hear the low voices of neighbors, the distant shouts of market sellers setting up their stalls, and the rhythmic slap of sandals on the packed earth. Overhead, the sun is just starting to rise, painting the mud brick walls with streaks of gold and pink. You sling your bag of tools over your shoulder and step out into the day, ready to face hours of silent, careful, repetitive work. As you walk toward the scribal school, or perhaps the grand house of an official who employs you, you catch a glimpse of the Nile glinting in the distance, the lifeblood of Egypt sparkling, quietly as if to remind you that time, like the river, never really stops. Your day as a scribe truly begins with a walk through the city. The streets of ancient Egypt aren't paved with stone, but with hardened earth, pressed smooth by centuries of footsteps. You share the road with chickens, goats, and the occasional stray cat, who watches you with the regal indifference that all cats seem to have mastered, no matter the era. As you walk, you pass neighbors, some hauling bundles of reeds, others carrying heavy baskets balanced on their heads. The marketplace is already coming to life, with vendors calling out in gentle, sleepy voices, laying out their wares: onions, garlic, fresh dates, simple pottery. The air is cool, but promises heat as the sun climbs higher. Your mind is already drifting to the work ahead. Maybe you remember yesterday's Lucina, tedious exercise in copying the same legal formula 20 times. Just to prove you could form each symbol the same way, over and over, you clutch your writing tools a little tighter. For some, being a scribe is the ultimate dream, a job indoors, away from the biting flies of the fields and the back-breaking labor of the construction sites. But what most people forget is the cost. Hours and hours of silence. endless repetition. The ever-present worry of making a mistake, of spilling ink or smudging your work, and having to start all over again. You nod politely to a pair of guards standing at the entrance to a grander home, the kind with painted walls and thick doors. Somewhere inside, another scribe is already at work, copying royal orders onto scrolls that will be sent to Priver by boat. Finally, you arrive at the scribal school, a low, sprawling building of mud brick, shaded by a few struggling date palms. The school is not large. Most of your classmates are boys from similar families, each hoping for a better future, each squinting in the early morning light, dreading another day of ink stains and finger cramps. You greet your teacher, a severe, thin man with sharp eyes and a permanent ink spot on his thumb. He says nothing, just gestures to your usual spot. A woven mat on the floor beside a battered wooden table. It's already scattered with bits of dried papyrus and a few half-used ink cakes. You sit cross-legged, your knees already protesting. The day stretches ahead of you, long and silent, filled with the scratch of pens and the occasional sigh. The first hours of the day are dedicated to practice. Not creative writing, not poetry or letters, but pure, repetitive copying. Your assignment. A long, dry inventory list. Cattle, grain, oil, jars, cloth. Over and over, the same words, the same symbols, each one carefully shaped so your teacher won't find fault. You dip your reed pen in the black ink made from soot and water, mixed to the perfect thickness. The ink has a faint, earthy smell, which, combined with the heat and the low drone of your teacher's voice, is almost hypnotic. Papyrus, though smoother than animal skin or clay, is not as easy as modern paper. The fibers catch your pen sometimes, making the ink bleed. Each mark must be slow and careful, steady and deliberate. If you press too hard, the pen will split. If you go too fast, the ink will smudge, and your work is ruined. Your teacher paces behind you, his sandals making a soft, rhythmic slap against the stone floor. He checks each student's work, occasionally offering a curt nod of approval or more often a quiet correction. No, the symbol for ox must have the tail longer. Here, see. The hours crawl by. Outside, the city gets noisier. You can hear the clatter of pots, the shouts of vendors, and the distant lowing of cattle. In your small room, though, the only sounds are the scratch of pens and the rustle of papyrus. The boredom is oddly comforting, steady, predictable, almost meditative. Your mind drifts, but you snap back whenever your pen slips or your teacher's gaze falls on your page. Every so often, someone makes a mistake. There is a moment of panic as they try to blot the ink before it soaks too deeply. Sometimes it works. Sometimes the only option is to start over. At long last, the morning's slow hours are behind you. The teacher announces the lunch break in a voice that is neither enthusiastic nor impatient, just steady, as if reading from a list himself. You put aside your reed pen, flexing your stiff fingers. The tips are stained dark with ink, and there's a faint ache in your hand from gripping the pen so tightly, as if holding on for dear life. Lunch is not some lavish affair. It's the same as yesterday, and probably the same as tomorrow. You step outside with your classmates into the weak shade cast by the date palms. Each student has brought a small cloth bundle, your midday meal, carefully packed by someone at home. You open it. Inside is a round, flat loaf of barley bread, a few small onions, maybe a handful of dried dates, and a little piece of salted fish if your family was lucky at the market. It's simple, but filling. The air outside the school is warmer now, and the sounds of the city have grown louder. You and the other scribes sit quietly, not talking much. Words are your job after all, and you've already written enough of them for the morning. Instead, you listen to the lazy hum of insects and the distant splashing of water carriers passing by. Sometimes the teacher joins you, sitting apart, chewing slowly, eyes half closed in the midday sun. You wonder what he thinks about all day. Does he remember being a student? Does he ever wish for something different? Or is this too just routine, a series of days, each exactly like the last, with only the ink stains and the names on the papyrus changing? Lunch doesn't last long. Soon it's time to go back inside, where the air is close and smells faintly of old papyrus, dust, and ink. The afternoon brings a change ever so slight. Instead of copying inventory lists, your class is assigned a new exercise: correspondence. Letters to imaginary officials, or to your own parents, using the stiff, polite forms that scribes have been repeating for centuries. You begin, as always, by preparing your materials. The ink cakes must be moistened. The papyrus trimmed with a small knife to a fresh, clean edge. Everything is slow, careful, and repetitive. There's a rhythm to it, a pattern that's both reassuring and numbing. You start with the customary greeting, which is so formal it barely feels human. Ow. To the overseer of grain, may the gods grant you health and many years. Your pen moves slowly, carefully. You must remember the honorifics, the ritual phrases, the exact way to show respect to someone you've never met. There is little room for creativity. In fact, creativity is discouraged too much flair, and your work will be marked down. The ideal scribe is invisible, his work precise, his hands steady, his own thoughts hidden between the lines. Sometimes, you're given a real letter to copy a note from an official, or a message from the temple. These are treasures written in the practiced hand of a master scribe. You study every curve, every line, trying to absorb their skill by imitation. Outside, the shadows grow longer. The city's noises change. Less hustle, more voices calling children home. The distant clang of a smith's hammer finishing his day's work. Inside, the school remains unchanged silent, except for the soft rustling of papyrus and the quiet, almost soothing, reprimands of your teacher. If you finish your work early, you aren't rewarded with freedom. Instead, you are given extra practice, sometimes lists of obscure words, or complicated symbols that rarely appear in day-to-day writing, but must still be mastered just in case. Your hand aches, your back is stiff. You shift on your mat, hoping not to draw the teacher's attention. But, as always, the hours crawl on. As the sun slips lower in the sky, the temperature inside the school finally begins to drop. The long shadows creeping across the floor are your silent countdown to the end of the day. But you can't celebrate just yet. There are still assignments to complete. The teacher walks between the rows, inspecting the rows of careful script. He pauses behind you, silent for a moment, then points out a small mistake. A careless flick of the pen, a single crooked symbol. You sigh but quietly, and scrape away the mistake with the edge of your reed. Slow work, fixing errors, but you've learned that patience is as much a part of a scribe's life as ink and papyrus. After this, there's one last task, reviewing the day's work. You stack your finished pages carefully, aligning the corners as you've been taught. Each sheet will be checked again tomorrow, but for now, you take a moment to look over your own work. Some lines are better than others, some letters flow smoothly. Others are a little shaky, smudged with ink or sweat. But the progress is there, hidden in the details. Your hand steadier than it was last week, your mistakes less frequent. Around you, your classmates are quietly doing the same. Now the room is filled with the soft sounds of shuffling papyrus and tired breathing. Nobody speaks. The day's words have all been used up. Finally, the teacher announces the end of the lesson. There is no bell, just a quiet statement. You may go. It's not a grand dismissal, it's just another line in the daily script. You gather your things, your bundle of writing tools, your precious scraps of practice sheets, your empty lunch cloth. You step out into the fading light. The city feels different now, more relaxed. Crowds are thinner, the market quieter. The smell of baking bread and wood smoke drifts through the air. The walk home is slow, your legs heavy from sitting all day. You pass by neighbors who nod in quiet recognition, each person busy with their own evening routine. Someone calls out to their children. A dog barks lazily from a doorway. Somewhere a pot of lentils simmers, sending up a cloud of warm, earthy scent. Your mind drifts as you walk over the day's lessons, over the mistakes you made, over the work still left to do. But there's a comfort in the routine. You know what tomorrow will bring. The same ink, the same papyrus, the same long hours. There is safety in repetition, even if it sometimes feels endless. Sometimes you catch a glimpse of the Nile through the Eliza ribbon of deep blue, reflecting the gold of the setting sun. The river, like your daily routine, flows on without hurry or pause. You reach your home, a small mud brick house tucked between others just like it. The door opens with a familiar creak. Inside, it's cool and dim. Your family greets you with tired smiles, and you settle in for the evening meal. Dinner is simple until stew. Maybe a bit of goat cheese, more bread. You eat slowly, savoring the quiet. No one talks much at first. Everyone is tired from the day's work. Eventually, conversation drifts in news from neighbors. Small complaints about the heat, gentle jokes about the teacher, or the strange words you had to learn today. After dinner, you help tidy up. The chores are familiar, your hands moving on their own, mind drifting elsewhere. You think of your classmates, of the teacher's stern face, of the feel of ink drying on your fingers. When everything is done, you take a moment to yourself. Maybe you sit just outside the door, watching the last light fade from the sky. The stars appear, one by one, silent and patient. The air smells of earth and river water. Inside, someone is already snoring gently. You stretch out on your mat, the straw scratching your arms, the blanket rough but warm. The noises of the city have faded to a distant hum. You close your eyes, the day's worries dissolving into the soft darkness. Tomorrow, you'll do it all again and again. The work is endless, but there's comfort in its rhythm. For now, you let your thoughts drift away, carried off on the quiet river of sleep. The world outside your small house settles into quiet. The air is cooler now, the heat of the day only a memory on the mud brick walls. Night insects begin their slow chorus, a steady background hum. Sometimes you hear the distant call of a water bird from the Nile, or the gentle lapping of the river against the reeds. Inside, you prepare for sleep. Maybe you help your parents secure the door or shake out your mat to chase away any stray sand or dust. The house is dark, lit only by a flickering oil lamp, scent a little smoky. A little sweet reminds you of every evening before this, and every evening yet to come. Lying down, you listen to the sleepy voices of your family soft, fading into silence. Maybe your mother whispers a prayer to the household gods, asking for protection through the night. The flicker of flame on the wall is soothing, painting slow, shifting shadows. The simple comforts of home settle around you, the rough but familiar feel of your blanket. The solid earth beneath your back, the gentle night breeze moving through a small window. Outside, the city is a tapestry of muted sound, occasional footsteps, a muffled laugh, the closing of distant doors. As your body sinks deeper into rest, your mind wanders sometimes back over the day's lessons, sometimes into the world of dreams. You might imagine yourself writing with perfect skill, the papyrus filling with flawless lines. Maybe you dream of a different future standing in a grand temple. Reading aloud to the pharaoh, your words carrying power and meaning, or perhaps your dreams are simpler. You walk once more along the riverbank, feeling cool water on your feet. You sit beneath a palm tree, watching boats drift by, their sails catching the moonlight. All is peaceful. All is quiet. Outside, the world sleeps. The city's heartbeat slows. Even the river moves more softly under the cover of night. You breathe in and out, your chest rising and falling with the rhythm of sleep. If you wake for a moment in the dark, you listen to the safe, steady breathing of your family around you. The worries of the day are gone, replaced by the gentle promise of tomorrow. The endless work of the scribe can wait here, in the calm and safety of night. You are simply at rest. If you're still awake, thank you for joining us on this gentle journey into the everyday world of an ancient Egyptian scribe. We hope this story brought you a sense of peace and helped you drift off to sleep. If you enjoyed this journey and want to explore more quiet corners of the past, consider subscribing. Let us know in the comments which historical time or place you'd like to visit next. Sleep well and good night.